Hello, hello. Happy Heart Health Month. Thank you guys for joining me. I think I've actually set up a live on YouTube properly and it's working. I see I got a couple of you here. I will ask. I'm going to put a live chat on this. Hi, all. If somebody on the other end could let me know if you see and hear me, I'll start my ramblings. And because I'm old and don't have great vision, I will go through my demo and our little workout, and then I will come back. I want to spend a healthy amount of time and allow you guys to drill me with any questions if you have them today. So if anyone is there on the other end, I have just enabled the chat. Let me know if you are seeing that. No? Hope I did this right. Okay. There. Perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to get started. So thank you for joining me today. It is a little after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do see some of you there on the other end. I have enabled the live chat on today's feed. So if you are not seeing that, I'm not sure what I've done. So I will get back to that in just a second here. And so today is not going to be a big, long, drawn out. I know I tend to ramble. I promised you a crash course, and that's what I intend to offer. Today I am working on a combo vibration plate that moves in 3 different ways. We're going to be working in one movement today, which is oscillating movement. Many of the exercises that I will be demonstrating are going to be universal. It doesn't matter what vibration plate you're using. All vibration plates will offer you some benefit. How much intensity, strength, force level, the way it moves. There's lots of different choices on the market. All are safe, but where things get gray is you as an individual, your current level of conditioning, why you're using the plate, and quite honestly, a general understanding of how to accomplish certain goals. So if you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking at building bone density, whatever is driving you to use a vibration plate often is because you're not coming from a place of exercise for purpose now. You're not a regular gym goer. And maybe you struggle with what exercises should I be doing. Many manufacturers want to lead you to believe that it's setting this and it's programmed that, or it's speed, whatever. And there is some truth to that, but it's kind of 20, 30 years of bits and pieces of studies being thrown into charts because you as consumers, you just wanted that cookie cutter, this will do this and this will do that if you do this. And it's not just like exercise. You can go to the gym and you can hire the trainer and you can get the best plan in the world, but unless you are executing it, you're not going to realize those goals. So a vibration plate is a very good tool to make accomplishing your goals easier, whatever they are. A vibration plate superficially increases your exposure to gravity. And I'm going to very briefly explain why is that beneficial. If you Google and look on the internet, the benefits associated with our health and gravity, there's tons of them. We as a human walking around on planet Earth have a relationship with the Earth, and it's 1G. We're resisting the gravitational pull of the Earth. We don't feel it, but how our body, our fluids, our muscles, our bone structure interacts and keeps us upright in this environment, it's interacting, it's ever resisting that force of gravity. When you step onto a vibration plate, easier to demo and not hear my voice rattling. When you expose your body to a vibration plate, you are superficially increasing your exposure to gravity. You're never going to find a study that says, oh, 3 Gs or 10 Gs or 20 Gs is better for this. It's too complicated of an equation, but there are two factors that equate to increasing the forces exposed to your muscles. And all these little micro movements that are created, I want you to understand there's two key things on a vibration plate that you can use to manipulate your experience and make it tolerable and enjoyable for you. So the first is moving. It's moving like this right now. I'm on the lowest setting of 1. And the speed, the frequency, the program, how fast the machine is moving is one part of the equation. And it's generally the only one discussed. This is when you're coming into the forums and saying, I want speed. What's the best speed for bone density? Or what's the best speed for lymphatic drainage? But I often refer to, well, what amplitude are they using? What is the position that they're doing? How long were they doing it for? There's other variables. So the other most important variable I want you to leave with today, if I haven't hammered this into your skull in some way elsewhere already, is you're always in control. And depending on what you may be dealing with, your tolerance on an oscillating plate, which is one of its unique benefits, wide increases the amount of movement, the amount your muscles are having to respond and react to keep you stable and upright in this environment. Here, you're not moving. Here, you're doing the same thing, but moving. So therefore, by association, the muscles, have to do more things. By doing more things, they're increasing circulation, lymphatic movement, balance is improving, stability is improving, flexibility is improving. We're warming up our muscles, and this, there's lots of benefits to just standing. Same with standing on the floor. You're increasing your bone density. It does require your body some effort to stand, but as we know, on the floor, this is easier than this. So same goes on a vibration plate. This on the plate, through these two factors that we're manipulating by increasing our exposure to gravity, if we increase force by our muscles having to respond to this stimulus, these little micro movements, we're not going to last as long. We're going to get more work done on the muscles. And if you're dealing with chronic or acute issues, time is a really advantageous tool that this plate gives you as a gift. So, all these exercises you're supposed to be doing can be done quicker and more effectively in the environment of the plate. So there's never one path, but because I do deal with a lot of acute and chronic stuff, I generally am completely contradicting most manuals out there. And it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just a different approach. Again, this industry has been around about 30 years, but it's not really well understood. It's not really at the gyms. Most doctors don't understand it. So it's kind of been left in the hands of manufacturers and consumers to figure out the best way. And a lot of this stuff has been in print so long, I can't be responsible for all of it. I'm just showing you my way and challenge you to try it as an alternative. If your experience in trying the plate perhaps wasn't so pleasant, maybe you're afraid to use a plate. There's lots of different reasons that you have one and maybe it's still sitting there in the box. So the first time you try a vibration plate, I recommend being seated in a chair. We're going to move on to a bit of a demo here. And while I'm rambling, we're going to talk about some contras. Feet close, you're barely moving at all. Who would this be applicable for? Well, maybe you're dealing with some really bad neuropathy, or maybe you've got some diabetic sores, or maybe you've got a really weird condition and it just hurts everywhere all the time. So sometimes lots of movement is a good thing, but sometimes it's not a good thing. So the sooner you understand the relationship that you are in control of, the more comfortable your experience is going to be. So we're going to start with our feet close, but I'm going to ask you on your machine, whatever it is that you're using, it does not matter. Whatever your top speed is, cut it in half. What's the middle? Mine has 60 speeds, so I want you working in the 30 to 40 range with closer feet. So we're moving faster, but we're not moving as much. And you're going to feel it's a lot smoother. It's less choppy. It's more vibration. There's all these discussions out there lately about it's not vibration. There's different movement types, and within each movement type, they each have their own unique feel, their own performance characteristics, and it's important to just understand. It is very much more an individual preference thing. It doesn't matter what I think or the research thinks. If you don't like how it feels, you're not going to use it anyways. So the sooner you can understand, you control your experience, the sooner you'll start experimenting and having a little bit of fun and improving on the benefit side. So right now at speed 30 with my feet really close, I'm getting passive benefits like circulation, lymphatic, which I talked about. We are improving sensitivity. So if you are dealing with, drop foot, neuropathy, some of your poor mobility and balance is related to foot issues, I recommend starting seated as a warm-up. Maybe you're doing your entire session seated. You're not in a position to stand or you're fearful to. This is great for up to about here. So you're feeling it on the toes, you're feeling it on the heels. Instead of just sitting here, there's probably other benefits we could be adding. I love combining other things or more movement to your seated exercises. So let's work on some foot pumps. I just finished a session for Heart Health Month on Life Pro's channel. And you want to keep the calves strong, certainly when you have heart issues. But as we age in general, we sit too much, we don't move enough. And a lot of our flexibility, our stability is related to what's going on below the knee. So if you're having neuropathy, you got raging varicose veins, you fatigue easily, I want you keeping your duration short, so 2 to 3 minutes. But this is something that you could do as an exercise while you're using it, just to get a little bit more benefit from it. If you want a little bit more upper body, I've done this in a million different sessions. You can try by adding the knees and the hands to the equation together. The movement transfers, obviously, to the arms. If you want it a little bit more intense, come down to the elbows. Just relax. Don't fight and resist it. The neck tension, it has been there 30 years. Try not to guard and protect. Just let it do its thing. Okay? If it's too intense, sometimes this is fine. But once you go to the elbows, what would be the tip, Debbie? Reduce the intensity. Right? I don't want you playing with the speeds or having to. Just play with the feet. If it's more tolerable, great. Maybe it feels good and you want more action. Well, widen them up. And sometimes partway in, you loosen up and things are feeling good and you want to move more. So experiment. A lot of these are, like I say, 2 to 3 minute exercises on their own that you can use to manage symptoms, to boost energy. When you're first starting out, I just want you getting comfortable with this space, how it feels, and how you can manipulate the experience. And it may vary based on the exercises that you're doing. So let's now go, for those of you that are comfortable, I added in the notes today for the session an equipment list. And one of the items I had is a bar height stool. Why a bar height stool? When you're using a vibration plate and you want to reduce or partially reduce body weight, maybe you're not ready to stand, maybe you're fearful. So sitting on a stool with your feet on the plate, depending on the height of your plate, you're going to be raised up anywhere from 5 to 8, maybe 10 inches. So you need to compensate for that in the height of your stool. You want to make sure that when you're seated, you're at a good 90-degree angle or a little higher. Any lower, and it's going to be like trying to get out of your grandma's old sofa, and it's not great on the hips long term. I know many of you like to use a plate seated under your desk, those type of things where obviously you're not going to be using a bar height stool, and it's fine to do it that way, but be conservative on your durations and your amplitudes. Don't sit there for 10 minutes, for 5 times a day, as good as it may feel. Bring the feet closer. 2 to 3 minutes is probably all that you really need to get things moving. Don't spend the majority of your time with those hips downhill. Okay, it doesn't cause problem for everyone, but I do have some people with hip issues, degenerative spine concerns, maybe they're getting ready for hip replacement, where it's just not comfortable doing a position in that. It's something everybody has to experiment with. It's never black and white, just like your path to getting through to these goals. So the next progression and some of the contras I want to talk about, we're going to go to full weight bearing. So one of the contraindications, and I will post contraindications. I think they actually might be in the notes for today. Contraindications in a manual or online on some site that you're shopping on are generally pretty different than what I support. I have a lot more experience dealing with many different types of plates and a lot of medical conditions. It's just my tenure. I've been doing it a lot longer. My only real hard stop, and I want to have a conversation. Let's look at the word itself, contraindications. They're not contra do not do's. They're not contra stops. They're contraindications, and they are an indication of if you have anything on this list, if you have anything acute or chronic that you know you're dealing with, you should discuss with your doctor or care provider the suitability for you of becoming active. A vibration plate is simply a tool that makes activity easier. So for those of you that are running to your doctor's office and saying, is it okay for me to use a vibration plate? And they go, gee, I don't know. I've heard they're not very good for you. 9 times out of 10, they're associating it with a term called occupational vibration exposure. So anything negative, anything ever that you've heard about a vibration plate has been one of two things. It has been occupational exposure, and there is a healthy body of research, and there's a whole world of guidelines associated with occupational vibrational exposure, which is occupation exposure. So you're in a dump truck, 8 to 10 hours a day, and your spine is taking that impact. You're working with a jackhammer or a tamper, and the frequencies are way up there. The big difference between a vibration plate and occupational exposure is durations. Durations are excessive. You're doing it for hours a day, for weeks, for years, for decades as a profession. A vibration plate is typically speaking, traditional vibration plates. I don't want to talk about some of these funky dunky ones that are claimed to be medical devices because they cost $5,000, $10,000. If you understand there's two types of movement: vertical, like this, oscillating like this. The operating frequencies of the best machines in the world are below 50, 60 hertz. So they're half the speed, and you're doing purposeful exercise positions on them. We're talking 10 to 15 minutes. So a lot of the time stuff about vibration machines and overexposure back in the day, they didn't know. They related it to occupational exposure because it's all they had. But if you overdo it on a vibration plate, it's going to give you the same effects as over exercise. So guess what? You're probably going to be sore the next day. And these help with recovery while you're doing it. So you shouldn't feel super sore. You may feel really fatigued, but this is why I want you to be ultra conservative on your time starting out, especially if you're dealing with chronic issues. If you are dealing with chronic issues, use it more often. Take the symptom management approach first. Start moving and feeling better to prepare and build the foundation to challenge yourself with more fitness type, more stressful type of exercises where we're pushing the body. You want to be prepared for that. So symptom management is 2 to 3, maybe 5 minutes if you've been using it a while, as symptoms present themselves. So I'm going to go pick up my kids at the library and have lunch. And, I know I'm tired now. I really wish I could just have a whole pot of coffee. Well, a great way to use your plate, and you may use it seated. So it might be 2 to 3 minutes, just to get that blood and that lymph going. Again, my feet are going to be hip width apart. Okay. Circling back to contraindications, my only one is really blood clots, that you have them and you know that you do, or you're at high risk. Are you allowed to exercise with blood clots? Yes, but you may modify how you exercise, or you may need to adhere to some guidelines as outlined by your care provider. A plate is just a tool. So if you're doing squats as an example, you can do a squat on a vibration plate, but why it's of such huge advantage for any issue is you don't have to spend as much time doing it. It's not as bad on those arthritic knees. But keep in mind, it's really, really good at boosting that blood and that lymphatic movement. So if you are dealing with known blood clots, those type of things, if you're recovering, you fatigue easily, keep those durations short. Take a little break, take a breather. It's probably more effective to start exercise positions in short multiple reps versus like sticking and trying to go a minute and your technique starts going because you're just trying to make it the 10 minutes that your machine is preset. Look at it more as an exercise, each exercise. So I want to move on to time. How long can I use my vibration machine? Well, what do you plan on using it for? If it's symptom management, like I kind of talked about, or energy boosts, 2 to 3 minutes. I don't like to put a time on it because I have some people that are dealing with some really chronic pain and they'd rather use their machine than take more pills. So, but no, if you are doing exercise, be honest with yourself. Okay, are you fatiguing? You've been standing here 10 minutes. Are your legs burning? Probably not. So the time thing for fitness, I prefer to break it down into a per position thing. So if I'm doing one squat, I'd love to see you make it 30 seconds to a minute. Make sure the squat for you is challenging. Can you go deeper? Do you want to add dynamic movement? Do you want to add some mass? Make sure you're doing a squat appropriate for your level of conditioning. If you've never done a squat in your life, maybe try one on the floor and see even where you're at before you add a stimulus that makes it more effective and more challenging. Okay. For those of you that are scared by something like that, and I'm not ready to squat, but I do want to do weight bearing. I do want to lose weight. Well, there's other things that you can do. Maybe you're doing pelvic tilts. Maybe you're, maybe squatting isn't good for your knee or your hip, but by bearing your mass on the plate, you're going to get more total body circulation and lymph effects. But long term, it's chipping away at the strength and the bone density longer term by bearing your mass. So the key is consistent use for some of these benefits. Weight loss is going to require some engagement of the muscle groups. I have had people, oh no, Deb, I lost 10, 20 pounds just standing on it. Many have. There's detox. There's, as your lymphatics are getting, there's other ways that your body reduces its size. Things tone up because we're adding the stimulus. But if you want to progress, you want to tone, you want the hard six pack, you got to burn calories, and you got to pay attention to the calories you're feeding yourself as well. Not getting into that today. But a squat is probably the number one best exercise that you can perfect on a vibration plate. It's going to fire up those quads, those glutes. It's going to burn more calories. And if you're doing that earlier in the day, it's going to elevate your metabolism. So your idle calorie bank, when you're inactive, it's going to recruit more calories because you fired things up earlier. There's many, many ways to use this. So my first exercise in today's workout was the squat. If not for you, 30 seconds to a minute, as I said, wasn't challenging. Don't follow necessarily my cookie cutter guidelines. You've got other things around the house. If you're conditioned now and you're doing floor-based exercises, pay attention to your breathing, pay attention to your technique. The better your principles in how you're executing the exercise, the more effective it's going to be and the better results you're going to see on your plate. So another thing, I wanted to jump right away into upper body. So I showed you an example sitting. Upper body is probably something a lot of people struggle with. They think they're doing it right. It's this terribly unpleasant experience because your head's rattling all over the place. There are ways to manipulate a push-up, and there are ways, providing you can get down on the ground. So for those of you that lack the range of motion to get as far as I've gotten on the ground, work those squats. That's going to be the best way to improve your range of motion. It's never the getting down, it's the getting back up that sometimes presents more challenge. So quick upper body crash course hack, just like when you're standing, wide is more action, close is less action. If you haven't done a push-up on the floor in a decade, you have absolutely no business doing it on a vibration plate for the first time. To my plankers out there that I love doing planks on the machine, Debbie, I do it all day long. You go for it. In 20 years, I've never done it one time where I've enjoyed it. Most of us do not have the technique or the strength and the tolerance as women to do a plank properly on a vibration plate. And sometimes I've seen skin worn off elbows. I've seen bruises. When you're doing a plank, unlike your hands in a push-up, your elbow is the point of contact. And generally, our plank position is like this. If you can bring your elbows closer and reduce the amount of amplitude, you can do a pretty kick-ass plank. But most of us have our elbows wide, so we've got more action. If you really, really, really want to do a plank, please add a mat. Common sense applies. If I am doing a plank, I'm only doing it as a wellness thing. So I prefer, for those of you starting out, I'm going to start with the push-up, and then I'm going to progress to the plank. So I'm going to do a girl style push-up, modified push-up. I'm on my knees. I'm taking half the body weight out of the equation. I want you to understand the control here, just like I taught you with the feet, before we make the exercise itself harder. So when you're standing on the machine, oh, I can't do a squat, my knee, my back, it takes me sometimes forever to convince you to do a squat. But when it comes to upper body and bat wings and tank top season, I got all these chicks out there that are like, woo, I can do this, I can do this. And then you're wondering why your neck and your back and your shoulders, oh, the vibration machine hurt me. No, you're doing an exercise you're not ready for. So let me break it down. Let me teach you how to manipulate and comfort and make it your own experience for upper body. If you need a mat, I do not use a mat when I'm using my hands. So just like on the machine, I want your hands shoulder width apart, not wide as the machine allows you to go, shoulder width apart or closer. I'm working, yes, with a mid speed because my hands are closer. I don't like wobbly, choppy movement. I like smoother. So bring it up in speed a little bit and compensate with closer hands. The biggest tip I will teach you, the $1 million secret with upper body, is angles. So on my knees, without like committing full body weight where you're focused on keeping yourself upright, I want you to pay very close attention to how this feels. Put your hands on the plate. You're leaning back, and you're just going to, at the hips and the knees, unbend, and you're going to keep pushing yourself forward. And all of a sudden, oh, it's going to hit you in the head like brutal. And then if you keep pushing forward, it goes away. If you come back, oh, there it is. Oh, wait, now it's going away. If your hands are looking directly above, or if your head is looking directly down at your hands, vibration goes straight up. So if with your hands, position your head either just slightly behind or just slightly ahead. Put the hands under the shoulders, which is my preferred. You're going to minimize the head vibe. So back here, little less body weight, very therapeutic. Maybe you're doing more like a stretch. Pushing forward, your upper body is having to support your mass. It becomes more fitness. But keep pushing till those shoulders are above the hands. And you're going to feel it much more in the chest, the shoulder blades. To target the bat wings, pull the elbows in. Normally we kind of look like this. If you want to hit these, take the elbows and draw them in. So they're up against your ribs. Okay? So from here, draw them in. And you'll feel it's all bat wing. Okay? I want you to learn these exercises. Learn what hand position is comfortable, what you can tolerate before you make the position harder. And one of the biggest things, I talked earlier about how your body tries to cheat and make things easier. One thing that it does with upper body and core exercises is it stops you from breathing. You don't even realize that you stop breathing if you're not mindful and you don't practice good breathing techniques. So what happens here is you're sticking it and, oh, I'm doing good, and we're going to tilt that bum forward and I'll engage in my core and I stop breathing. Make sure you're breathing. Talk, sing, okay? If you're feeling comfortable with that and you're ready to add movement or more mass, you can experiment. Maybe you're starting on your knees as a bit of a warm-up, or maybe you've just got shoulder tension and you just wanted to get, it is just a vibrator. It is a great way to just offer relief to tense muscles. We've all got handheld versions, but this is just playing with your neck and your shoulders angles, and I want you to play with it before you make it harder. So the next transition would be backing up the knees just a little bit more. So we've got a straighter, longer core, and then of course the next transition would be the toes. And from here, there's a bazillion variations. To me, before we get into the plank, that engages your core. If you're doing a push-up properly in this fashion, you're getting the same benefits. With the plank, if you would like to do a plank, because that's your thing, again, I would suggest matting it up, but try bringing the elbows close. And if you're large in the chest or you've got wide shoulders, you may only be able to get so close, but you'll feel it's a lot more. You do feel it in the head. Keep your arm nice and straight. Okay, try feeling. This is nice therapeutically, but I find for most people, it's just too intense. There's no way that you don't intensify the head vibration if you're doing the position properly. Okay? And it's hard when the machine's moving. Your elbows tend to roll out, even though you're trying your best to keep them close. So I don't love doing planks that way. I would prefer you come up to the hands or switch it around. Put your feet on the plate and your upper body on the ground as an alternative. 9 times out of 10, especially with my ladies, you're stronger from the waist down than you are the waist up anyways. So if you want to do a plank, do it this way. Okay, you're still getting as much, and then maybe finish off with a push-up or something after the fact. With my programs, when I'm running, let's say, a core program, I would tend to leave my upper body till the end, because when I'm doing plank work, when you're rolling around on the ground, we need our upper body to move. So if I kill your arms and all my planks before we get to the push-ups, it's kind of ill-witted. So I kind of leave my push-ups till the end to just finish things off and save the arm strength and get my plank work and those types of things done before I get into push-up. My guys are a little bit different. So that was a few more examples. Something else you're probably not going to see as much of in the manual, but I did want to touch on. I wasn't sure if I was going to. How's time? Time is good. Okay. Massage. Direct massage. A vibration plate is a great way. Certainly can expedite the exercise and some of the things we just discussed. I want to talk on upper body just to give you a couple of tips there. Massage, if you're going to overdo it on a machine, it's going to be massage. And what we tend to do is, it's a passive thing. When you're on the machine, doing a squat or a push-up, a load-bearing exercise, it's hard because, you have to keep yourself, you have to exert yourself. But in a massage, it's kind of lazy. It feels really good. You can, with massage, there's a couple of little add-ons that I like to use. One of them is the Aeroflex step that LifePro has come out with. There's lots of different aerobic steps on the market. This one is on the shorter side. You want to work with something that is the same height as your plate. And why I like to use these, I want to see my chairs in the corner here. Why I like to use these is it just gives you a little bit more real estate, a little more surface, the same height as the machine. So if you are dealing with mobility issues, you're not having to quite get down as far. You're level with the machine. You're not going below the surface of the machine. It's physically a little easier. But when I'm getting lazy and I like to do massage lots on the machine, especially as I've gotten older, it's just a different way it gives you a little surface to keep yourself level. If you're working with special needs, any kinds of medical issues, this will make it a little bit easier for you to maneuver the users that you're working with, especially if there's paralysis or other equipment that you're working with. So this is a good idea. So I'm going to turn the plate on. I do not use a mat for massage, but if you do have sensitivities, you're a little scared, maybe you bruise easily, put a mat on the surface of the plate. If one was not included with your machine, go find yourself a nice thick yoga mat at a secondhand store or go buy one. But you will be cutting it up with a piece of scissors. So what I do is I just cut the surface of the machine. And then I also have one for my steps. Sometimes if I'm putting elbows or knees or something on it and you want a little more padding. So one full-size yoga mat will get you at least 4 or 5 mats, depending on the size of your plate. And sometimes If you're maybe a service provider and you're working with different people, it's an easy way to keep sanitary, to have multiple mats if you have different users for minimal investment. So massage, believe it or not, yeah, crank it up. I like a mid to high speed. You know, this isn't low, this isn't hard, this is just feel good. And the lesson on this one, just like when you're standing, wide legs is more movement, more activity. Closer is less. For the calf massage, I've got my heels just popped off the edges. You can just sit here and enjoy. One of my faves is adding a calf stretch. So pull the toes, point them. Maybe you're working on these types of exercises. Roll the ankles around. Maybe you want to reach for the toes. Really depends on you and what feels good. You can roll to the outer, inner. Part of what's nice about the step is you got a little something to hang on to maneuver around, if you will. The next variation, now depending on height, if you're under 5'4", 5'3", you can probably massage the hamstrings and glutes at the same time, depending on the model of machine that you're working with. I'm closer to 5'10", so I like to do, I'm going to move up now and show you the hamstrings. So I'm just kind of walking up, okay? And my hamstrings are on the plate, but my butt cheeks and my spine are just off the edge. So I have to do my hamstrings, and then if I want to do my butt, or if I move on a little more, the top end, the bottom end of my hamstrings are off. It really depends. Again, experiment with this. You'll notice my voice is rattling around. For those of you that don't like the head buzz, again, it's not harmful. It just takes some getting used to. But just lean forward slightly. Get the angle out of the spine, and 95% of it goes away. If you are using a step, you can also do this on the floor. You may just want to lean back. It depends on what feels good to you. Again, wider is more shake. Closer is less. It really depends. One of the common side effects on this one, if you haven't noticed already, an itch or pins in the needles. It's a very common newbie thing, but when you're applying body parts directly to the plate, or maybe you've been using your plate a while and you've just tried this exercise, sometimes it's changing how you use, or new users that experience like this pins and needles, like your legs have fallen asleep. Some of it is crazy itchy, where you're breaking out in hives. And for those of you that are dealing with conditions like lymphedema, lipedema, Derkham's disease, there is a condition called MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, where your body kind of overdoes it and releases histamines with increased activity. It's not a vibration plate thing. It just happens quicker because it expedites the benefits of exercises. So if this is the type of reaction you're having, you may want to look into that further. If you are dealing with MCAS and you know exactly what I'm talking about, whatever measures you take prior to activity now, I'm not here to offer medical advice, but some of you have suggested to me that you've taken like a mild antihistamine. Some of you take herbs. Some of you do have medications for it. But expect if you do have a histamine reaction to activity, increased activity, new activity, usually more so, expect the same thing when you're starting on your plate, and all the more reason to keep those durations short. So one variation I want to show you guys on this one, because my guys love this one the most. I've moved up and I'm now sitting on my glutes. I love turning this into a stretch fest again. A lot of my guys, just warning you, you've got different body parts and you've got it on the plate, and if they get itchy, it kind of spooks a few of my guys. I tell you, man, good circulation and lymph flow is of no harm, but you're going to have different sensitivities than a woman. As a woman, when you're sitting on the plate, it doesn't matter how it feels. As soon as I tell you that this helps with cellulite, you'll suck it up anyways. But some add-ons I would suggest are like add your Kegels if you're working on pelvic floor, any of your exercises, your breathing work. A lot of my people like to meditate and do their yoga moves and their breathing exercises seated on the plate. But yeah, add some Kegels if you've got incontinence issues. I did an article a couple weeks ago about constipation, prostate. All of these areas are benefiting because they're directly in the path and the target area. So, keep it 2 to 3 minutes, but do it consistently. If you haven't had a good clean out in a while and that's a problem for you, lots of detox going on here, as I've mentioned earlier. But if you're not so regular, you suffer with constipation, this is probably one of the number one moves that my parents and my CP group do. In one move, it helps with the constipation, the incontinence, the back pain, the digestion. If there's articles on that too. But spasticity, that tightness in the hamstring, these poor kids can't get their legs straight and sleep at night. This is kind of a really good all-in-one move. If you're doing this closer to bed, don't do it for hours and hours. I don't want you getting all worked up and not being able to sleep. So the next variation on this, and this is much better if you have a step, if you don't have upper body strength, you're going to do the low back now. So we're going to lay down completely. The step just gives you something to rest the upper body on. If you do not have one, you can rest your body on the forearms. And then once you're down here, I want you wiggling that way a bit. So you got the tire, the low back is on there, and raise those knees up. I usually have a pillow here when I'm doing this on my own, but this is an awesome way. By bringing the knees up, we get the arch out of the back. With the feet on the floor, there's an arch. I can get my hands right under my back. So bring those knees up. And from here, I mean, you could turn to the side, get the outer hips. Maybe you like to go straight up, do some raises. Whatever feels good. This is such a great way to get into the top of those hips, the low back. I warn you with this one, when you do sit up, you've had a whole lot of blood flow going. Now you're lateral. Keep those positions short. I don't want you getting a head rush. A lot of my elderly clients that aren't used to all the moving around and Deb's boosting all this blood flow and oxygen through me, and you sit up really quick, just sit for a second. Even though I'm saying 1 to 2 minutes, the average newbie, I'm already down here. And I mean, what's 10 minutes? It feels so good. Well, remember that tomorrow when your legs feel like jello. It's because you went too long. Even though you're not doing loaded exercises, your squats, your push-ups, there's a lot of movement going on. And this is one of the great therapeutic ways a lot of my therapists understand how to manipulate the plate. If your range of motion is there, this is a great way to just target sensitivities directly. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. You can do the fat wings. You can do your tummy. I have done sessions on massage. I will post my link to my recommended videos in the recorded version of this once I get it edited. But a plate can be exercise. It can be your wellness tool. It can be your masseuse. Again, a lot of it is, when people say, well, what's the best setting to use on my machine, or how long should I use my machine? Well, a lot of it is, to me, what are you looking at using it for? What are the goals? If you're just getting started out, don't even get hung up in any of that. Just get shaken with your machine, understanding, how these little nuances of moving your feet and shifting your weight around, and experiment with how it feels for you. It's a very personal experience, and how it feels for you is unique to you. Everybody's tolerance is different. So, whatever the goals are, use it consistently, use it often. And if it, like I say, if it's for symptom management, using it often, a couple, 3 minutes throughout the course of the day. Don't worry about the marathon yet. Many of you have other mid to long-term goals, the weight loss, the bones, the strength. That comes with consistent use. And the more regularly you can use this to just, get the soft short-term advantages, the balance, the lymph, the circulation, the pain relief, the energy, the more you're building a really good foundation to the squats, the step-ups, the push-ups, the planks. I know it seems impossible, but a couple weeks ago, one of the very first clients I ever started working with in my studio 18 years ago just celebrated her 100th birthday. Isabel is about this tall. She had just had her second hip done when I met her, and she used to come for just massaging the feet and foot baths and other things I did. And, after a year and a half to 2 years, that it wasn't a good plank, but she did a plank, and it was the peer pressure. I had all these women in there for core classes, and she'd come in and start her foot bath while I was finishing that. And one day she's like, "What, you don't think I can't do a plank?" And I said, "Well, I just didn't think you want to." She goes, "Well, do I need to?" And she goes, "I just want to try." And I mean, it was 2 to 3 weeks of, practicing, just getting up and down. And she did do a mini plank on her knees. And I'm very proud to say 18 years later, she still uses it in a lot of therapeutic ways. For a lot of you that are above the 70, 80 range, don't let anybody tell you that you're destined to sitting 18 to 19 hours a day. That you have to give up the activities that you love. I find with my post 60, 70, Rosanna and I were talking about this week, the plumpness, the muscles, the shape, the density of them changes. And one of the biggest advantages I've seen with both my seated and my stand, because sometimes medically there's reasons people never stand, or they're just too fearful to stand on the plate. There's a lot of ways I can get creative with lifts and yoga swings and steps, and the plumpness and the richness in the size, the texture that I see in their muscle groups just by adding the stimulus of a vibration. A lot of people don't realize one of the big advantages a vibration plate offers you is in many ways it recruits more muscle fiber than your traditional activities. There's more going on. Your body has to recruit more of that spindle to accomplish the task. So that's also part of the way that it contributes to fatiguing you faster. So it doesn't have to be a big complicated routine. Weight bearing strengthens the bones. Adding mass is going to be a great way to improve that strength, make those bones even stronger, push them, stress them out, and your body will respond and reply in a way that makes your body stronger for the task you're requiring it to do. So I'm here to fill in any blanks along the way. And if any of you are working with a PT or a trainer right now, and you've got a book of moves or a program, a vibration plate is a great way to do the exercises that perhaps you're supposed to be doing already. For me, I'm a busy mom. I'm still homeschooling my child, and it's a time thing. I got a bad knee. That's how I got into this, and I like having short, purposeful sessions. 3, 4, 5 exercises. I have certain exercises I do depending on how my day's going. If my shoulder's bugging me, my back, I've got all kinds of little 1, 2, 3 minute moves. And other ways, to combine your therapies. If you've got red lights, if you've got saunas, the infrared blankets, any of those things, a vibration plate before and or after is from a wellness step. Maybe that's when you're doing your exercise. Keep in mind, you're always getting that additional benefit of that lymph and circulation, which is just going to bring to the bigger picture of the benefits that you're getting. And for those of you that are doing fitness, focus on the technique. If you're just doing exercises for the first time because you got a vibration plate, there's all kinds of videos on YouTube. There's sessions that I've done in a lot of the groups I support, and keep it simple. Be realistic with yourself. Pick exercises that you enjoy doing and can be good at doing, versus something that's just going to demotivate you and make you not want to exercise because it looks too hard and too complicated. Okay? Simplify and be consistent. All right, Aroni. So that winds me to the 50-minute mark, and I want to thank for those of you that I haven't perhaps put to sleep at this point. I want to invite if there are any questions. Now would be a great time to mention those. I want to make sure I covered all my little sticky notes here. Again, stressing, a lot of people just starting out are fearful. There's lots of different reasons you may or may not be getting started. Have a bar height stool handy. Okay. This one here that I'm sitting on is a swivel variety. If you have really poor mobility and you're working on these exercises on your own at home, that's a really good tool to have. Sometimes it's just a peace of mind thing. Your balance is okay, but for those of you that have good days and bad days, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that you can't do your activities or you can't use your vibration plate, but you may need to modify. If you're dealing with chronic issues, perhaps you're recovering from a surgery. There's always a way to use your vibration plate with modifications. So adhere to that. For those of you that listened to me ramble today, thank you for joining me. I hope you found the information insightful. If you're watching this later on the recorded basis, I will be editing some of my ramblings out and posting a shorter version of this in my groups as well. But never hesitate to message me if you are a newsletter subscriber. Never hesitate to email me directly if you did have something that you needed support with. If you do not follow my articles, I do send an article out every week. A lot of my newsletters are more general public, as is my YouTube. I do have two very large support groups for those of you that may not be aware. And my groups aren't for everybody. I can't be the free support to the free world. But many of you that are dealing with chronic or acute issues, I have a heart and a skill set, and no one should suffer if you've got one of these machines in your house. There's generally a way that you can benefit from using it. So for those of you that are looking for more hardcore fitness, don't forget that I do a session weekly for free on Life Pro's Facebook channels, and you'll see me on their YouTube and Instagram and wherever they cascade to. I've just posted a link. If you did want to register for my newsletter, feel free to do so. I send those out weekly, and I have a number of them in there. Check other postings here on my channel if you have any specific medical concerns, or maybe perhaps some specific benefits that you're looking for. And if there's something that I haven't covered and you'd like me to address specifically, I'm always looking for session and topic ideas. So thank you for joining me on a Saturday, the first day of February. It's Valentine's month. It's Heart Month. And, whether you are dealing with a heart condition or not, you've got a tool, hopefully, in your living room. If you are considering a vibration plate and you're just a little hesitant, maybe you got some medical concerns or you had a poor experience, please take some of my guidance, toss the manual, guys, and work with just a different approach. There's more than one way to use these machines, and you've got to experiment and try different ways and see which combination of settings works best for you in the exercises that you're performing. And that'll change too as your tolerance and time on the machine develops. So use it often, use it consistently, and have a little bit of fun too, guys. It's not always about just doing the work. So thanks again so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your weekend.